What does Bradford City's 25-26 League One transfer window taste like? ChatGPT says, promotion, back to back. Jenson Metcalfe has signed a 3-year deal for an undisclosed fee to come from Everton Academy to Bradford City after his absolutely brilliant League 2 loan at Chesterfield last season. What a signing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you do want to do so, and subscribe if you're new. What a signing. What a summer window, and it's only getting better as the window goes on. We started with Max Power, and partnering him, hopefully for that first game, will be Jensen Metcalfe, and I hope he does, because this guy, he's got a lot for me. As a number 6 and a number 8, he brings a versatility to his game, but he can do both. And that's so important for us, because we've not had that midfielder who can play as a 6 and an 8, because we've needed cover for Smallwood for the last 3 years, and we've never been able to provide it, because you bring in a Corey Evans, that type of player, and they're not good enough. But now we're in League One, there's a bit of investment behind us, and you've got to say well done to Stephen Rupp, but you've got to say well done to the negotiations behind the deals as well, to be able to pull them off. Because it's one thing being able to say, right, well, I'm going to throw a bit more money at it, but it's got to be thrown at it sensibly, and it's got to be thrown at it at the right players, and we are bringing in the right players, the right characters. But the money that we've actually paid for players like Jensen Metcalfe, is it worth it? And you've got to say 100%, and he will not have been cheap. He will not have been cheap at all, and you've got to praise the ambition to go and throw it. But it's worth it because he's got the potential. He's 20 years of age. He was one of the star midfielders in League 2 last season. I think he played around 20-25 games for Chesterfield. Broke through towards the back end of the season when they went on a really good sort of unbeaten run, which pulled their season back into the playoff frame that they obviously got in, but missed out on getting to the final. And Metcalfe were a big part of that. He absolutely ran the midfield for a team that were based on a lot of egos when you look at it, and a lot of players who have played at high end of league of DFL, and a lot of players who are very experienced pros. He was one of the stars in that team, and he's 20. He was 19, and he really shone through in that. And when we played him, he ran that midfield. He controlled the game. He dictated the game. He scored a right goal. Brilliant assist for Will Grigg as well. So he can break forward, and I think that's what this signing will do for him. I think when you look at Chesterfield and Bradford City on the ball, they're two very different sides. Bradford City are a bit more direct. Chesterfield, they were a team that were based on retaining possession, keeping the ball, 1-2 touch passes, and just keeping the ball ticking. Whereas at Bradford City, yes, it's 1-2 touch passes, but it's not exactly on the half turn. It's not exactly, we don't want our midfielders to play the ball back to a centre back. We want them to play forward. That's the first thought. So he's going to have to adapt his game there. Obviously, Everton Academy, that's how he will have been brought up to play as well. But I have no doubts that he can do that, because when I've also watched him, he wants to get on the ball and turn and play as well. That's just a different tactical side. But off the ball, from what I've seen of Chesterfield, they are a team that want to press high. They are a team that, they're not going to just sit in a low block. He will have to do that at times to Bradford City, a low to mid block. But at the most part, like we saw for the second goal against Middlesbrough, you do have to press high. You do, and if you're D8, you've got to push on a bit, and you've got to get touch tight and man mark a player and be ready to step in and bite and put a niggly tackle in, like Tommy Lee did a lot against Middlesbrough, and like Brandon Kayla did so well last season. And I think he's a pretty similar player to Brandon Kayla. How I think he can play deeper, but for Bradford City, we'll ask him to play as an 8, and I think he's got all the characteristics of an 8. Like I say, he's really good in possession. I think off the ball is as good as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old midfielder in League 2 can be for a physical player. Making that step up to League 1, I think, will be no problem, because it is a more technical division, and I think that'll suit a player like Jensen Metcalfe in Dutch. So I think that'll be I think this is really positive for him. But then for us, what we're getting is a 20-year-old who's eager to learn, who's eager to get into the club, that it'll fit his system. And the pressing side of it, I think he'll be absolutely fine. I think that'll really suit his game, and he's got a 3-year deal. We can cash in on him. I know it's not nice to look at that as a player and go, well, we can sell him, but that's the positive. Never fall in love with a loan player. Well, we've signed last season would have been a loan for us in League Two. We've had a lot of criticism this summer window for bringing in experience, Dad's Army sort of team like Cocoon. We've got so many experienced players over the age of 30. Where's the young signings? Well, Josh Nerfel, he was the player of the season for Wimbledon, one of the best players in League Two. From what I've seen of him when he worked Wimbledon and now in this pre-season, he looks the real deal. He's going to be, for me, he's going to be our player of the season next year. He's so good defensively, which I didn't realise how good he was defensively. I knew he was good, but that this good is incredible. And going forward, he's an unstoppable force down there, always wanting to go forward. So he's got that resale as well. And like I say, resale is important because when you're comparing it to a loan, never fall in love with a loan player and all that, but you get, well, at least like Jack Shepherd helped us get over the line. If a loan player helps you get over the line, then you're falling in love with him and he's done the business and then he can go off. But he's done what he needed. Whereas when you get a lot of loans, like we had, like say Scott Banks and a lot of others like Josh Cullens as well, who didn't do the business because it as an individual he was great, but the whole team didn't get over the line. It's a bit disappointing, but to have someone like him for 3 years, and it might be less because we could massively cash in on him because he can play at that high level. From what I've seen of him, he's a very intelligent player on and off the ball. And like I've mentioned, against Middlesbrough, I thought the midfield was the weakest link. There's some good players in our midfield, no doubt in that. It's a step above. It's going to be a different game. The intensity in the midfield's different. But I just felt like we were missing a bit of an intelligence in there, a bit of legs. He's a real engine in that midfield as Jenson Metcalfe, so he's going to add that, and I think that were something we were missing. Our press got bypassed a few times too often. So for the second goal, it worked perfectly fine, and we got a goal from it. That's the risk you take when you're playing a high press. So I have nothing against that, but it did look like a bit of a weak area for us where we did get bypassed, and maybe in a league game where that they're taking it more serious, that they have to think a lot more. Maybe that could have been an area where we got found out a bit. So I think this is a top signing. What we needed, can play as a 6, can play as the 8. We've got the depth now in that midfield. I don't think it really needs improvement. I think Tommy Lee can do more than a good enough job in there. There's question marks over him 100%, but I think he deserves a chance as that 4th choice. Pattison was, an unbelievable player for us last season. Max Power's going to be starting most weeks, I'd assume, unless he ain't fit. And if he ain't fit, then Metcalfe can play in that role and he's great cover. And like I say, as at 8, he's going to be asked to get forward a lot more than he was at Chesterfield, so it's going to be a test of his game, going the other way, breaking into the box. But I think he'll enjoy that. I think he'll get a few more goals, like the goal he scored against us, where he's breaking just into the box, but it's outside the box and he's curled it in, and it was a great goal. I think you can expect to see a few more of them. He'll be in that Pattison fold, but I think he should be a player who can make the highest step. So it is an unbelievable signing just for the fact of his age, the contract length, and the potential that he can go up to. I didn't expect us to sign a player like this. And when we're talking about, like I mentioned earlier, with the experience, Richie Smallgoing was a bit of a, it will have been seen as a bit of a travesty for a lot of people outside of Bradford City, but at the time it was such a big shock. And you think, how are we going to replace him? Well, Max Power already in the building. I thought we were going to be smaller than Power, but in the end, Alexander decided that we needed someone else in there. We could do better. He wasn't sure on Smallwood making the step, and what a decision that's turned out to be. I love Smallwood. I'll never forget what he's done. He's a legend of his football club forever for what we achieved last season and that 3rd of May. And obviously, it's quite an iconic picture now, looking back, and City Park's in front of him, and he's lifting that dog bowl. But Metcalfe and Power is another level for me. It is league, top end of League One standard, them two. And I think that is the difference. That is what you've got to do. I ain't seen anyone else who came up, made them signings, replaced players for better players that got them promoted. None of them have done it. And there's not many players who were in League One who have made similar signings, where they've replaced players who may be average in League One and replaced them with top end. I think we've overtook a lot of players for a lot of teams this season in League One because of the additions we've had and the way we've altered the squad. And I think the way we built this squad is perfect, to be honest. For our budget, we haven't got a big budget. I don't know why that's been thrown around, but to bring in a Stephen Humphries and Metcalfe and a few others who will be on a bigger wage and a bigger wage from what we're used to, we've spent our budget really well. And we've got a great mix. I have no doubt in the characters. I ain't got a problem with that anymore, really. There's a couple you think, there could be a bit of a loose cannon, but that's fine. You need a couple to spice things up. But, it's like putting chili powder in a curry. You do need it, You can't have a mild curry. Some like a mild curry, but does it exceed the levels that you need it to? And I think when you throw in a bit of chili powder, maybe a bit more, and you can't throw the 14 in, because then you've got problems. Then you've got egos. Then you've got like PSG, Galacticos. It's too spicy, that team. You do need to tone it down a bit. You do need a nail burn, even though he's a shouter. But anyway, massive tangent. You can't have a mild curry. It's not going to win anything, is it? So I think that really adds a bit of texture, a bit of spice, a bit of flavour to our team. I forgot the original point. That's what happens when you go on a tangent. You forget your original point. Just stick to what you're saying. Don't mess it up. And that's anything in life. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you did. Subscribe if you're new. On the road to I don't know what now. But thank you very much for subscribing. It is massively appreciated. And all the support we've been getting. Talked a bit about the transfer windows of other teams this season. If you haven't watched the last video on the winners and losers of the League One transfer window for the 25-26 season, please do. It is massively appreciated. Bradford City are mentioned. Either the winners or the losers. Well, I think you've got a great guess actually from this video. Obviously Metcalfe will be talked about from that one. But thank you very much for watching and have a good one.